Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double A Team podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi. Thank you for joining us on this gorgeous Sunday afternoon, wherever you might be. It's a pleasure once again for me to welcome my guests who have been on travel, personal, and also business for quite some time. Rishab Skiri from the Bears YouTube channel, DaWindyCity Production. Rishab, thanks for joining me. How are you today? Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to be back on. I'm doing well. It's really hot outside. It's been a really hot summer for us, so sweating a little bit in my room here. But yeah, it's been a good last month. It's been a break from like content creation for me and just like keeping up with the Bears. There's not really much that's gone down the last month, so it was a good time to get away a little bit. And training camp is starting here in like less than a month at this point. So excited to get back talking about Bears football.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the dog days of summer right now, with less than a month before the training camp officially kicks off. I got to switch to the different banner down beneath here. Sorry for that. But so with the training camp, excuse me, less than a month away, Rishab, it's kind of like, slow periods right now. Let's kind of like go back and forth about what is on your mind in regards to the Chicago Bears. How are you feeling right now with overall where the team is, with the OTAs done right now? How are you feeling about the current state of the Chicago Bears right now?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good. Like this is the most excited or maybe not excited, but like confident I've been going into a season in quite some time. And it seems like Bears fans can say that every single year, but I truly feel like, this time we have the coach to actually back up the confidence. Like this is the first time, honestly, since maybe 2019, in which that was after Matt Nagy's Coach of the Year season. It's the first time since then that I truly feel really confident in our head coach and our entire coaching staff too. Like Dennis Allen is a top-notch defensive coordinator. Ben Johnson is a top-notch offensive play caller. So there's just been a lot of positivity over this offseason. But I at the same time, I also feel like it's been kind of a like quieter offseason in some ways. Like you don't see the Bears players really talking that much. I mean, the biggest thing that came out was Caleb Williams, article about him not wanting to be in Chicago. Last year he wanted to go to Minnesota. Apparently that was the only like big news or whatever that came out. But besides that, players aren't really like talking trash too much. Like they're kind of keeping quieter this year, I feel like, which is a really good thing. I feel like, like it's not like we're not tooting our horn a little bit too much. Like we actually want to prove it on the football field first before, talking too much trash or like doing anything too crazy. So in some ways it's giving me vibes closer to like 2018 offseason, in which like I feel like a lot of us were a little bit hesitant going into the offseason, but we were also really like excited too to have a new head coach, have a quarterback going into the second year. And I feel like this offseason is even like more than 2018 because Caleb is a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky, a better prospect. Ben Johnson has been doing play calling for a lot longer than Matt Nagy was when he came to the Bears in 2018. So there are a lot of reasons for optimism, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, training camp is coming up. There's going to be a lot of tough practices. It's going to be a pretty tough summer, I feel like, for all these Bears players because Ben Johnson is not going to take it easy on them. Like it's going to be rough practices, tough practices. He's going to like really drill down the details into every single player, and nothing is guaranteed either. Like he said that the depth chart does not mean anything at this point in time. Where you got drafted does not mean anything. So it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for a lot of Bears players to really earn starting spots, and it's going to be exciting to see what happens in training camp.
Now, that the article from Seth Wickersham about his upcoming book, focusing on the quarterbacks, obviously, Rashad was referring to the article about how Caleb and his father, in particular, weren't keen on playing for the Chicago Bears. For those who are not familiar or who is probably needing a little bit of a refresher course on that one, I don't think we touched on that topic at all, right?
No, because that happened, I believe, like a month ago. So yeah, we did not get the chance to discuss that.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people were kind of like up in arms to some degree, but at the same time, I think overwhelming most of the people were like a little bit more sympathetic because of the problems, with the perception of the Chicago Bears and their hit and their history, lack thereof, when it comes to developing, the quarterback. So I think a lot of people are kind of more of a sympathetic, and you and I will probably feel the same way about if either one of us were ever as good as Caleb, or if we had a son that is good as Caleb, we'd be feeling the same way about what about my son going to the Chicago Bears, given how poorly they've done when it comes to the quarterback. So I think this is all about basically it's somewhat of a nonchalant argument at this point. You're with me on that one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the story already went away too. Like nobody's really talking about it anymore. I think it was just like a
Uh-huh.
talking point for, a few days, for maybe a week. But just like you, like I would not, I don't fault Caleb or his father for feeling how they felt. I mean, the Bears were such a horrible organization, and
Yeah.
everything that Caleb said was proven right. Like we had to fire our head coach in the middle of the season. It was bad, and the offensive play caller too before the halfway point of the season. So like their concerns were 100% valid. Anybody that's mad at Caleb for not wanting to come to Chicago initially, like they don't know what they're talking about, because I think nobody would want to go to Chicago with how bad our situation was. But all of that is in the past. Like at this point, the Bears have put a really good supporting cast around Caleb. We got Ben Johnson, we got solid offensive line, really good playmakers. Now there's no excuses for Caleb. Like if he doesn't succeed, like at this point, everything is set up for him to do well here in Chicago.
Oh, without a doubt. By the way, thanks for comments from people already there. Celeste, obviously, she's about to do her thing there. Hello. Caleb Williams Burner, chances of 1,000-yard receiver. Great question. We'll get to that toward the end of our show when we wrap up about doing the overs and unders of the Chicago Bears upcoming. Thanks for throwing that question as well. Emiliano, thanks for the questions. Have these comments and questions keep coming to us. So, the Bears schedule was released earlier last month, and we never really had to, had a chance to go over this. So I'm going to pull up a schedule, then I'm going to share it on the screen right now. So the Bears and the Vikings will open up Monday Night Football on September 8th. Obviously, the storyline that we were discussing about Caleb wanting to go elsewhere, and Minnesota's name was popped up as a possible link because Caleb was so enthralled with the idea of playing for Kevin O'Connell, also known as KOC. So I thought it was quite telling that the Vikings and the Bears were put in a position to play on week 1, and then week 2. Already, Ben Johnson goes to Detroit for a Ben Johnson Bowl with the Detroit Lions. And then you have the Cowboys and the Bears. It's Matt Eberflus's ball there. So those are very intriguing first 3 games. They're Raiders. And then you have the Commanders again, the week 5 already. The Fail Mary, or whatever the hell you want to call it. The Bears and the Commanders. They get together, in week 5 already. Rishab, looking at that schedule released so far, what are your thoughts on the overall schedule, and then if it's balanced out, or do you feel like it's a little bit tougher than you originally thought now that the schedule is out?
It's definitely a tough schedule. Like I think it's one of the top 5 toughest schedules in the NFL on paper based on last year's record. But at the same time, like I do like that our schedule's kind of balanced out. Like all the tough games are not all at once. Like I think every 4-game stretch has a relatively easy team to beat. Like if you look at the first 4, like the Raiders should not be that good of a football team.
Right.
The Saints are going to be bad too, most likely. So like I feel like every 4 games we at least have like one gimme game. But yeah, it's going to be difficult because the NFC North is super difficult. It's probably the best division in football, and we're also playing the NFC East, in which they also have two really good teams.
And then the AFC North as well.
And the AFC North too, which those teams are always great as well. So we did get a little bit unlucky in terms of like which divisions we're playing this year, but at the same time, like every year teams get better and worse. Like there's no way to know how many of these teams are actually going to be good this year, how many are going to regress. So the Bears just have to focus on themselves. If they, do what's asked of them by this coaching staff, if they play their best football, they're going to start winning games. Like it doesn't matter what the schedule is as long as you play your best football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are a certain stretch and there are certain interesting excuse me. If you're taking about non-NFC North teams, if you subtract the 6 games out of the 17 regular seasons, so you have 11 non-divisional games. And again, as I mentioned, AFC North and then the NFC East are the two divisions that the Bears have to play on top of it. And then the Las Vegas Raiders, the one extra game that they're playing, regardless of the annual schedule that the NFL has, and that's in Vegas. Of course, I'm sure that this game has the attention of everybody, who doesn't enjoy going to Las Vegas and then watch the Bears play, and hopefully the Bears beat the Raiders here. Easy, very interesting storylines, of course. Lions with Ben Johnson. Matt Eberflus comes to the Bears in week 3. This is the Fox national game of the week. So the Bears get the 4:25 start. So you get Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady for those who are going to be watching it at home. Let's hope that Tom Brady is a much better and improved analyst in his second year, of course. Hopefully there. And again, the Bears Commanders, we're going to see that Tyreek Stevenson tip ball over and over and over again leading up to the game. And we'll probably hear about it or see so much camera being paid attention to Tyreek Stevenson throughout the game. Let's see. So here you got the Saints. This is probably the ones that you're going to really have to win. Bears Ravens, Bears Bengals. You have 2 back-to-back AFC North teams that you have to maybe get at least one win. Most likely the Bengals, probably the easier one than the Ravens. I think this is the first time I think the Bears face Lamar Jackson for the very first time. So this is not an easy game, of course, being on the road. The Giants, Bears. I don't know if Brian Dable will be still coaching the Giants by this time. And who knows if Russell Wilson is still the starting quarterback at this point, of course. Let's see. The Steelers, Bears. Had the Steelers signed Justin Field for another year or two, this would have been an Justin Field revenge game. But now it's the Aaron Rodgers who signed a 1-year deal. Let's hope that we can probably put an end to his career. He kind of indicated that this upcoming season will most likely be his last. We'll see about that. And then the game here on Black Friday at 3 o'clock in Philadelphia against the defending Super Bowl champions. We're going to find out just how much the gap between the Chicago Bears and the Eagles exist. Had they closed the gap, or if the gap is still very much wide. And then you play the Packers twice in 3 weeks. This game, of course, being the probably, I think they've already made the decision 25th. I think it's Christmas Day, right? I believe.
For the Bears game?
Yeah, I believe so. That's the nationally televised game, maybe. That's the one. Or I'm sorry, this is the 20th. I think they've already made the decisions on the 20th. So this is like that's the Saturday game. And then you have the Browns in between. Who knows where the Cleveland Browns are at that point? Maybe the coach is fired. Shadur Sanders might be the starting quarterback. And then you go to the Bay Area, for the final Sunday night football of the season, and then you close out with the Lions at home. Looking at the schedule, Rishab, do you think 10-7 is attainable, or do you feel like that's a little bit of a reach?
10-7 is definitely attainable. I mean, it's a tough schedule for sure, and it's not going to be easy. But a lot of times, teams with first-year head coaches, they also like start winning games that they shouldn't. Like, we saw in Matt Nagy's time, like there was a lot of games that, we were heavy underdogs and we still won those games. So I think it just all depends on how good the Bears are like themselves. It doesn't matter really what the schedule is, as long as we're playing better football. We can still make the playoffs, still be 10-7. I'm looking at this like last stretch that we have. It's really difficult. The last 3 games, Packers, Niners, and Lions, like that's definitely really difficult. So I feel like if we do make the playoffs, like there might be a good chance we're one and done, just because it's so hard to, carry this momentum probably when we're playing so many tough teams. But at the same time, if we make it in, anything can happen. So no, I don't think 10-7 is, way too much. I think any record is possible this year with how the Bears team has been built.
Yeah, 10-7, I think would be the I would consider a very successful season, considering how difficult the schedule is. We've seen the tough stretch of the schedule. There are a couple of tough stretches. The first 2 games are difficult. First 3 are, of course. I think you have to start at least 2-1 here. I think the Vikings are winnable at home, and so is the Cowboys game at home. You really have to, tee off on the Matt Eberflus's outdated cover 2 defense. I understand that they're going to try and downplay the Matt Eberflus returning to Chicago, but I do hope that the Bears will find a way to beat on the Dallas Cowboys. I think 2-1 start is a must if the Bears were to have any successful season. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think especially this even like first 5-6 games of the season, like the Raiders are a winnable game. The Saints are also a very winnable game as well. So
Right.
if we beat the teams that we're supposed to beat, we could start off very well this season. Like we could have, 4, at least 4 wins, hopefully in the first 6 games. I mean, there's some tough games there too, for sure. But, even the Lions game, like on the road, like, we could beat the Lions too. I mean, this team is really good right now. I think the Lions could also take a step back with them losing Ben Johnson and also losing defensive coordinator
Glenn, yeah.
So it's going to be. I think the Bears are evenly matched with a lot of these like other teams are facing, even if they're really good teams.
Mm-hmm. I kind of ranked the non-conference games. There's 11 of them, as mentioned. I ranked them from 11 to 1. At the very bottom would be the Week 15 game against Cleveland Browns, as I mentioned. This is a game in December, which obviously is not for the faint of heart, especially the weather being very, very brutal. And the Cleveland Browns, of course, have to pick the quarterbacks between Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and as I mentioned earlier, Shadir Sanders out of the 4. And even if Kevin Stefanski is still the coach, well, it's more than likely that he'll probably be fired. And hopefully the game itself, the Bears shouldn't have a difficult time beating the Cleveland Browns. But again, going to a game against against a bad team like Cleveland in December is not for everybody. Number 10, Week 6 against the Saints. Again, this is a team that is in transition. David Carr abruptly retired because of his shoulder injury. They also lost Ryan Ramczyk to a retirement as well. And they have to go, pick a quarterback out of the Jake Hayner, Spencer Rattler, and rookie Tyler Show. That's not exactly, a daunting quarterback by any stretch. Number 9, I picked the Las Vegas Raiders, of course. This is the Ashton Genty Bowl. We the Bears, of course. I think a lot of people wanted Ashton Genty. But I think it kind of like became a pipe dream when a lot of the draft experts started linking Genty to the Raiders. And sure enough, he did go to the Raiders. Now we're going to have to face him, of course. And hopefully the Bears defense are, well equipped to stop Genty from having a massive game against us. Number 8, the Giants, of course. As I mentioned earlier, Stefanski might be on the hot seat, but the man who's probably even on the bigger seat, of course, is Brian Daboll. You think the Bears have a very tough schedule? The Giants have probably the toughest schedule in all the football going into this year. Their first 2 games are against the divisional opponents, Dallas and Washington on the road. And then they have the next 2 home game against the AFC West, Kansas City, that's Sunday night, and then the LA Chargers. And as I wrote in my Bear Goggles On article, 0-4 start is not out of the question. And the Week 5 game is the against the Saints. You have a legitimately 2 bad teams facing each other with one of them maybe fighting for their first win of the season. Somebody has to win these games. And if, God forbid, if Giants lose and go 0-5, maybe there's a slight chance that Brian Daboll might be fired before the Bears, and welcome the Giants at home. So that's how I see this game. Number 7, at San Francisco in Week 17. If you remember, this was the Thomas Brown debut in San Francisco shortly after the Thanksgiving game debacle, which Matt Eberflus got fired. Remember that one?
Yep.
Yeah, we were so excited now that Matt Eberflus is out of it. And Thomas Brown unfortunately torpedoed his very slim coaching opportunity with a horrible loss. So it's a bit of a gamble because you're hoping that maybe the NBC is hoping that these 2 teams, the Bears and the 49ers, are still fighting for the playoff spot this late in the season. The 49ers came off a horrendous 6-11 season. It would be very interesting if the San Francisco, if this was an aberration or signs of decline, because, I don't know if it's possible, but maybe Kyle Shanahan's time in San Francisco might be coming to an end with another bad season. Of course, aging and injuries have really taken a toll. Week 6, number 6, I had the Bengals at Week 8. You have Caleb Williams versus Joe Burrow. That's a very sexy matchup. The Bears defense will really have to be on their toe against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. It's going to be a real, like a shootout, maybe like a 38-35 type of game. Hopefully the Bears will come out on top of it. Week 5, Pittsburgh. Again, as I mentioned, Aaron Rodgers. Maybe this is the last time, the Bears can stick it to Aaron Rodgers one more time, considering, he owns us pretty much throughout his entire career. Hopefully, there will be a similar ending to when Brett Favre got sacked by Corey Wooten and ended his career there. Remember that game?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. The Metrodome caved, so the stadium was not available. They had to play at the University of Minnesota Gopher Stadium on outdoors. So, Minnesota was like 4 wins or 5 wins that year, that season. And, they were just pretty in bad shape there. Now, Week 4, Baltimore, I have it at number 4. This is a team that has been a model of consistency. This is the type of team that, I want the Chicago Bears to be when it's all said and done. They've drafted very, very well. Again, as I said earlier, this is the first time the Bears will face Lamar Jackson. The last time, the Bears faced the Ravens in Chicago, it was I forgot the name of the quarterback. It was Huntley.
Yep.
Yeah. It was Huntley who beat the Bears. Bears had the lead late in the game, but their defense wasn't good enough to hold on. Also, putting a more coffin to the nail to Matt Nagy's coaching career in Chicago. Number 3, Philadelphia. Again, as I said earlier, it's a Black Friday game. The Bears will have a very good shot at just how close they are to the Eagles, or if they're still far off. Big Fangio, of course, the man behind the Bears defense in 2018, who helped win the division that year. You're going to have to face him. I'll be very curious to see how Ben Johnson versus Big Fangio defense go up together. Saquon Barkley versus the Bears defense, and again, Dallas, Matt Eberflus Bowl. There's no more. There's not much need to be said here. And then the number 1 is the Washington. You knew that when the schedule came out, they would put this game, on prime time, Monday, Sunday night, Thursday night, or even Thanksgiving. They were going to put this in game on the prime time no matter what. So, you look at the rankings. Any game that really catches your interest of the non-conference, and do you like the ranking as to how I put it there?
No, yeah, I agree with the ranking. I mean, yeah, like Commanders is probably like by far going to be the number 1 most anticipated matchup. A lot of Bears fans are treating this game as even bigger than the one against the Packers in some ways, just because of everything that happened last year, like the Hail Mary,
right.
trash talking that Commanders fans did. Also, the fact that Jaden Daniels got drafted, 1 spot behind Caleb Williams, and he had a much better season last year. I think, Caleb's going to want to prove a lot. He's also from the DC area, so
right.
Again, he's probably going to have family in attendance, and hopefully he's going to hope for a different, outcome this time than we had last time. And yeah, other than that, like there's a lot of intriguing matchups. Like even the Raiders one, I think could be intriguing with, Pete Carroll there and Ashton Genty. I mean, we knew that Brian Poles really loved Ashton Genty, so it's going to be interesting to see how we defend against him. The Ravens matchup is going to be very difficult. Ravens are always really good team.
Right. I forgot to mention Derrick Henry too. Yeah.
Have we ever played Lamar Jackson? I don't think.
As I said earlier.
Yeah.
Played against him, right?
Yeah. So we've never played against Lamar Jackson, so that should be like kind of interesting to see how that matchup ends up working out. Really looking forward to the Steelers one too, just because Aaron Rodgers is there and. He's going to be coming back to Soldier Field to a lot.
He has to be healthy, though. He has to be
healthy, which is that's a big if with how old he is and how his Achilles just snapped like 2 years ago. So we'll see if he's healthy for that game. I really do hope he is healthy because it would be fantastic to end his career with a loss against the Chicago Bears. And we'll see. We'll see the other games, like what happens in them. Bengals game is going to be interesting because they have so many high-powered weapons on offense, and we have a good secondary, so we'll see how our secondary can match up against them. So yeah, I mean, all in all, it is a really tough schedule on paper. Like according to last year's winning percentage, it is like top 5 toughest schedule in the NFL. But it should also be a good test for the Bears to see just how good of a team they are. At this point, we have built the team up to be a playoff team. So if Ben Johnson really is the right head coach, if Caleb Williams is the right quarterback for us, I think we should see a playoff season this year, even with how tough the schedule is.
Right. The 3 must games for the Bears, they're all at home. As I mentioned earlier, they welcome the Saints, they welcome the Bears, and then they also welcome the Cleveland Browns late in December. They're all home games. 3 teams that are expected to be very, very bad and maybe vying for the top overall selection in 2026 NFL draft. Those 3 games you must win at home, no matter what. I don't care if it's 1 point or 10 points. You have to win those games at least. Those are 3 wins that you can definitely, you must, secure. And then the rest of it, the division. You only won 1 game, and that was against the Green Bay Packers on the final game of the season, where Cairo Santos barely snuck in. So they were 1-5 against the division last year. You got to be at least 3-3 to have a legitimate shot at being in a playoff race, and also beat the your NFC North rivals. because I think maybe two could be coming out of that division, given how tough that is. On top of it, whoever wins the division and maybe two teams coming out of the NFC North to get the playoff spots, right? So, yeah, I think the Bears definitely have to, really win those easy wins, and then also, go 500 against the division in order to give us any hope that this Bears team is making progress that we've been desperate for a long, long time. My guest today, of course, is the Bears YouTuber Rishab Skiri from his own YouTube channel, DaWindyCity Productions. Kind enough to join us on this Sunday afternoon. Let's look at the training camp previews. Of course, the number one storyline, of course, entering the training camp. Who is the left tackle? Braxton Jones was out for the basically the OTAs because he's still recovering from the injuries. Ozzy Trapillo took most of the first team snaps along with Kieran Amagaji. But let's remember, this is the ones without a pads, and there was no real hitting involved in this. So who is going to be the left tackle? Braxton Jones presumably will be healthy enough to be back by training camp. Let me ask you, who right now, in your opinion, is the left tackle? Is it still Braxton Jones, or is it, for you right now, you give it a shot to Ozzy Trapillo?
I think it's definitely Braxton Jones. At this point, we haven't seen any padded practices from Ozzy Trapillo. So as good as he can be in practice right now, I think it's just too much of a task to put on him to win the starting job outright. Now, it's possible for sure. Like, Braxton is coming off an injury, so if Braxton is not ready to start week 1, or if he didn't have enough practice, then sure, like, Ozzy Trapillo could get a chance at the starting spot, excuse me. And we also got Kieran Amagaji here too. I know he had a really rough season last year, but
it was but the Bears didn't do any justice.
He could factor into this rotation too at some point, right? Because he has one more year of development as opposed to Ozzy Trapillo. Now, based on everything I've heard, like, Ozzy Trapillo is one of the more pro-ready tackles to come out of the draft this year. So maybe there is a world in which he could win that starting job, but I just think it's too much to expect that right out the gate. Braxton's been starting for this team for 3 years. He has a lot of experience under his belt. And he's at least going to be like an average level tackle. He's not going to be a superstar, like really, really good, but to be even an average starting tackle, like, that's extremely difficult in the NFL. So, if Braxton can provide us with just average level play, I still think he should be the starting tackle this entire season. But if Ozzy Trapillo comes out of nowhere and has a really good rookie season, then in that world, you could, maybe give him the starting spot. But I'm not going to predict that because it's too difficult for rookies to, come out and, especially on the offensive line, do really good in the rookie year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely keen on seeing how Ozzy Trapillo does with the pads on. And, everybody will look good without the pads. There's no question about it. You don't see the entire full roster to some degree. But now when it's training camp, under the hot sun, it'll be very interesting to see, what kind of shape every player is. There's still a bit of a time between now and the training camp, what you do the rest of the way, and how you manage to prepare yourself for what could be the biggest position battle in quite some time, with so much attention on, all these three players mentioned. But of course, it's pretty much at this point, Braxton Jones versus Ozzy Trapillo at this point. I'm very curious to know, what kind of shape Braxton Jones is right now, where he is at mentally, being gone for so long, just how much, motivation does he have in winning this job, because, his contract will be up after this season. So it's whether it's with the Bears, and probably more than likely he'll probably leave the team elsewhere to, find his next big contract. Jones has to really put together a decent season no matter what. Again, whether it's with the Bears or to somebody else, Jones is auditioning for his career as well. So, despite the injury, I'm sure Braxton Jones will be gonna give, Ozzy Trapello a run for his money. A lot of the fans, me, I think we're very curious and probably hoping that Ozzy Trapello is good as advertised to win the left tackle position at some point, even as a rookie. But I'm very curious to see how much of that comes from, Braxton Jones, and how much does he want to, win this job. The other thing entering the training camp is the question at running back. I know Nick Chubb ended up signing with the Cleveland Browns despite all of the injuries that he has had to deal with in the last couple of years, which has really slowed down his career and the numbers. Are you okay? Are you happy with the Bears, of course, being linked to Nick Chubb for pretty much the entire offseason? The fact that he went to Houston and that the Bears didn't have to, pay a few $1,000,000 for a guy like Nick Chubb, who could have helped. But again, he's been very injury prone. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice. I was advocating for doing it because I thought it was low risk and, like you said, like it would have been good. Like he could have added some value, but at the same time, he gets injured very, very frequently. So there's a high percent chance that he would have not been able to contribute that much or be consistent because he would have gotten injured. And, even when he did play recently, like he wasn't the same as pre-injury. Like he doesn't have the same burst, the same explosion. So, in that sense, maybe I'm okay with not giving him a contract because, you did draft Kyle Monangai in the 7th round, who a lot of, Bears fans are pretty high on. I know he's a 7th round pick, but he did a lot of good things in college football. And, he could surprise and maybe be our version of who's the running back on the Chiefs? The guy they drafted in the 6th or 7th round. I'm like,
Isaiah Pacheco, right?
Yeah, Pacheco. Like he could be our version of Pacheco, basically, like a guy that was drafted late and blossoms. And we already do have DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson. They had disappointing seasons last year, but I think with better coaching and better offensive line, maybe they can be serviceable. And the NFL has proven like you don't need star running backs really to win championships. I know last year was
somewhat of an outlier, yes.
Yeah, Saquon, but the Eagles already had an elite team around him. So even without Saquon, I think maybe they could have won the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm okay with the running back right now. It's probably not a great room, and it's probably the least talented room in terms of all the position groups. But I still think we can make it work.
Yeah, I wrote about the how the Bears need to stop fantasizing about the running backs and Trey Hendrickson there, not about a week ago. With a less than flattering photo of Brian Poles there. Looks like he had a gum just sticking out a little bit there.
He's always chewing his gum.
So yeah, I'm I definitely say not every player that is rumored or linked to the Bears is going to come because of the the salary cap implication, which is not easy, of course. But the reason I wrote this is I don't think at this point, Trey Hendrickson is coming to Chicago. I think, both the Bengals and the his side, they gotten together again. Who knows how long the contract negotiation is going to last between those two sides? We'll see what happens, but I don't know if the Bears can afford Trey Hendrickson at this point right now. And then for the running backs, now I say that maybe the fact that the Bears have not done anything of note other than drafting Kyle Monangai in the 7th is because I think they are really, really high on this offensive line that they've finally managed to fix it. You have Drew Dahlman at center, Jonah Jackson and Joe Tooney are, two veteran guards that they've added. Hopefully that interior push will give the Bears more creases for the running backs to hit the hole. And then run. It's for somebody like DeAndre Swift, we noticed that Swift has a tendency to not hit the hole and then kind of jump outside and gets tackled for a loss. We've seen that far too many times, which is why I think a lot of fans are kind of like, we don't want DeAndre Swift, we want DeAndre Swift to be replaced. That's kind of like the discourse that where it happened. But I'm very anxious to see. Okay, with the improved offensive line, maybe Ben Johnson thinks that the running backs that we have now can be, maximized and get more production. Um, you know, they have histories between Swift and Ben Johnson. How about it was only for 1 year before I think Swift left to go to Philadelphia, only for one season. That was a trade between the Lions and the Lions and the Eagles, excuse me. And then you have Roshan Johnson, who is a bit of a wild card, I should say. Mostly a short yard guy, but very productive in the short yard situation. However, he's been slowed down by a concussion. So, out of the three here that I just mentioned, how would you rank the running backs that you have that you're high on so far? Is it Swift, Manangai, Johnson, or do you have it a little bit differently?
That's a tough question because I'm not a huge fan of Swift. Like I was kind of advocating to trade him or like cut him in the offseason. No,
Right.
that's not gonna
And believe me, it would have happened by now if Ben Johnson
Yeah,
wasn't really
it's definitely not gonna happen now. But it's tough. I mean, obviously Swift has to be number one. Like he's the most proven back in the NFL. So, I gotta put it number one. Number two, I'd probably put Manungai just because, Roshan, there's just like I don't know how much he's gonna be used in this offense. Like he can be a short yardage back, but I just don't know if he has what it takes to be like an all around like RB1 on this offense. But we'll see. Like even that could change. So, I guess I put Roshan number 3 at this point. But honestly, like I do think there's a world in which Manungai could even be RB1 of this offense. Like I know it sounds crazy for a 7th round pick to be RB1, but he had fantastic production in college football. Like I know his measurables weren't the best, but I truly do think like he could be that late round pick for the Bears that really blossoms. And running back is a spot where we see all the time undrafted guys, 7th round picks routinely outproduce like 2nd round or 1st round picks. So, I think eventually maybe Manungai could steal some RB1 carries, but at this point, you got to put Swift because he's the most proven back on this team.
A couple more segments with Rishab Skiri, the Bears YouTuber with his own YouTube channel, DaWindyCity Production. Go check it out if you're not a subscriber just yet. One more storyline that I'm keeping an eye on is, of course, the pass rush. Any concerns with it? The Bears, again, have been mentioned with Trey Hendrickson ever since his name started to pop up. But, of course, it's one thing you have to get him. It requires a trade capital that you don't want to give up too many for, considering he is going to be 31 years old very soon. And then you also have to give him a brand new contract extension, which probably would cost him north of 30, given how productive he has been, even with his advanced age. So that's probably, out of the books. Well, I'm sorry, I should say that would take the Bears out of the Trey Hendrickson sweepstakes, unfortunately. So you have Deo Odiengbo, Montez Sweat, Austin Booker, and then you have a slew of interior defensive tackles that you've drafted, Shamar Turner, Grady Jarrett. So those are probably the top 5 guys that I'm thinking of right now. Of all the 5 that you mentioned, that I just mentioned, how much of a concern that you have with, overall the pass rush? And is there any one guy in particular you're like that you have any concerns with going into the training camp?
Yeah, the pass rush is like definitely the weakest part of the defense, I would say right now. Montez Sweat is coming off a pretty mediocre season. Like he didn't have as good of a season last year as he did in 2023, or sorry, 2024. Or no, it is 2023. Yeah, but I think Montez has to get a little bit better this season. Like he needs to get back to his form when we originally traded for him. In terms of production, in terms of run defense, everything. Everything was a little bit down for him last season. So hopefully he gets back on track. And then, aside from him, we got, we don't have any more stars on this pass rush, right? Like Dayo Odengbo. I wasn't the happiest with that signing because he doesn't have a crazy amount of production. But at the same time, if Dennis Allen really thinks he has what it takes to be, DE2 on this team, then I'm gonna try to trust that and try to see what he has, try to be optimistic. And besides,
Forgot to mention Javon Dexter, my
yeah.
man too.
Yeah, so I feel like on the interior, we actually have good pass rushers. Like Jervon is a good interior pass rusher. Andrew Billings is pretty good rushing the passer. Grady Jarrett is really good rushing the passer too. And then Shamar Turner as well as the interior guy. So I think most of our pass rush is going to come from the interior, in which case, maybe that's fine that we don't have a star defensive end on the other side of Montez Sweat. Now, the Bears could still make moves if they want to, but like you mentioned, like I don't think a trade for Trey Hendrickson is happening at this point because I don't think we have the cap space, right? Like I don't even know how much cap space the Bears have at this point in time, but it's probably less than like 10 million. Like we don't have the money right now to really splurge on like a Khalil Mack like we did in 2018. So I think it'll be fine though, right? Like as long as we get like at least average production from one of the other defensive ends besides Montez Sweat, our pass rush should be okay with the interior pass rushers that we have, as long as we don't get too injured.
Yeah, I think this is a unit that will be heavily scrutinized, not just in training camp, but also throughout the entire 2025 season. Yeah, I'm definitely hoping that Montez Sweat will get double-digit sacks. That's a must for this defensive line to have any resemblance of a pass rush. Grady Jarrett, hopefully he'll provide a leadership on that defensive line. I don't expect him to, maybe, I don't know, if we get 5 sacks out of him, given his position and his age, I think that would be a significant bonus. Javon Dexter might get a look at the defensive ends every once in a while because I know Dennis Allen likes bigger defensive linemen than the traditional, like the undersized edge rushers, 6'2", 6'3s, and the 245s, 250, those type of rushers. He prefers the bigger ones like 275, 280. Javon Dexter looked like he slimmed down and probably will get a look at one of the defensive end positions. So it would be very interesting to see, Javon entering his 3rd season. He has taken that incremental steps from rookie to last year. Now that, he is entering his huge 3rd season, he needs to have a massive breakout season where he can hopefully get close to 10 sacks, no matter where he possesses. I'm very curious to see, how the Bears plan to develop and utilize Austin Booker as well in his 2nd year. He does, people are very high on him. I'm very curious to see how Dennis Allen plans to utilize him because obviously, as I mentioned, he's not the big defensive end like he prefers, like in the 270s or 280s. I think, Booker is like 245, 250, played in that weight last year. I'm definitely curious to see how this offseason in his 2nd year, how he, in his 2nd full season as a pro, how he, improves himself under Dennis Allen in this brand new defensive scheme. All right, let's do the overs and unders because somebody was kind enough to ask us, if the Bears were going to have 3 1,000-yard receiver. Vizo Joe was asking us, will Brisker be able to do anything about to get extended? Well, I think this is probably a good one to start with. Do you think he will play the entire season healthy, or do you feel like he might miss a couple of games? Brisker. Let's start with you.
I mean, judging by the history, it's likely he'll miss some games, but I'm praying that hopefully he won't have to miss any games, and that's basically what's going to have to happen for him to get extended. I think if he plays the full 16, 17 games, or maybe not all of them, but if he plays at least like 85% of the season and has a really good season, like a Pro Bowl type season, then I think he could be extended. But anything short of that, I think they might let him walk because he has too many injury concerns. His play has been up and down because of the injury concerns. So I think he has to have a really solid season and stay healthy to have a chance of being extended.
All right, keep in mind, Kevin Byard is also a free agent after this upcoming season. So the Bears are going to need a safety, whether to replace one or both. Because this is going to be a very a huge need for the Chicago Bears to address this upcoming season, the off season next off season in 2026. So one of them will probably be given a look to re-sign, whether it's Brisker or Byard. I don't know at this point, but the availability and production must be there for Jaquan Brisker to have any shot at staying with the Chicago Bears beyond after this season. All right, let's do the overs and unders. This is a very popular one, of course. 4,000 plus yards for Caleb. Are you buying it?
Yes, I'm gonna do over. Yeah, I mean, with all the weapons that we have, and with Ben Johnson especially, I think this is gonna be the first season ever we see a 4,000-yard passer.
Yeah, this is over for me. I know there are a lot of naysayers who don't think it, but I do believe that the Bears will finally have their first 4,000-yard passers in franchise history, and I think the Bears might be the only one who still does not have one at this point. All right, 3 1,000-yard receivers. Now, I believe the 3 would be, of course, DJ Moore, Odunze, and I'm assuming Luther Burden, provided that he stays healthy. 3, or do you feel like that's too much?
I'll do under. Yeah, I think 2 is pretty likely, but 3 is a lot. It's hard to distribute the ball that much, to everybody. Right. So I think that's probably say 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 2 for me. I think you're gonna get some probably, as Vizzo Joe says, 3 under 3. I go with Rome, DJ, and I think Luther Burden probably will get maybe 850, 900, provided that he stays healthy. Don't forget the tight ends. You had Colston Loveland, and of course Cole Kmet. Those 2 are going to probably take up about maybe 1,600 yards production between those 2. So I'm going to say under for the for that 3 1,000-yard receivers. Let's kind of expand on that. 1,500 yards for any of the receivers or over?
That's tough. Like I think probably under, because I think the ball's going to be spread out a lot. Like as you mentioned, there's just too many weapons on this team, I feel like, for just one receiver to dominate. So I think DJ Moore could get like 1,300 potentially, or maybe even Odunze could be receiver number 1 on this team. Like Odunze has the potential to go off for 1,300, if he can really get integrated into this offense. But there's just so many weapons. It's hard to see anyone, getting all the targets.
Over under Swift 1,200 rushing yards.
Under. I think it's going to be a shared backfield. So I think Manungai gets some carries, Roshan gets some carries, Swift gets some carries. So I'm going to say under.
I'll say go over, but barely. Like maybe 20, 30 yards. Barely over. I'll go over for this one. Over under Montez Sweat 10.5 sacks.
Let me do over. I think he can get to 11. Playing a full healthy season, being on a pretty decent defensive line at this point, I think he can get to 11. He had a really productive start to his Bears career, so I think it's possible to get to 11.
Yeah, I think if he stays healthy, I would say 11.5 or 12 would be very, very achievable. Remember, he had 6.5 with the Bears when he got traded, and he had about maybe close to 6.5 as well before he was with Washington. So he has gone over double digits in the past. Albeit with 2 separate teams together 2 years ago. So hopefully the Bears will get a much better version of Montez Sweat, the one that is healthy and productive. The other one, Jalen Johnson, 4 picks. Over or under?
I think I do push. Like I think he can get exactly 4. Like I think 4 is a good number, honestly. Like because it's hard to get a lot of interceptions, but 4 kind of seems a sweet spot. So I think he actually gets exactly 4.
I'll go over, but I would say 5. 5. I think 5 would be a very achievable schedule-wise. He's going to face some, poor quarterbacks. The Saints, the Giants, and the Browns. Those 3 home games. JJ has to really, the secondary will have to step up. there's going to be some games, where he has to really step up, like the ones against the Bengals when he covers, Jamar Chase, of course. The Cowboys game against CeeDee Lamb. Those are type of games that he might have to go one-on-one with those receivers. I'm sure the opposing teams will do all they can to stop throwing at that side, and then just basically leave him under. Maybe force Tyreek Stevenson or maybe Terrell Smith to perhaps go, one-on-one with those types of matchups and try to exploit that side more so than going up against JJ. You have to throw to JJ to get interceptions, and that is definitely correct. I think a lot of the opposing teams will try to avoid throwing it to him. So I'm very curious to see how Dennis Allen deploys him, knowing that the opposing teams will have to throw towards JJ's side, one way or another to maybe get a big play to keep the game going, or maybe they might gamble and get burned because the quarterbacks gets hurried and has to force the ball, and then JJ will be in a fortunate position to pick the ball, to end the game hopefully, or maybe give the ball back to the Bears offense for a possibly a game-winning touchdown or something like that. Do you have any other overs and unders that you have in mind that I just didn't mention here?
I'm trying to think. I mean, maybe the wins over and under. I forgot what it's set at in Vegas. Is it like
yeah, I think 8.5 or something. 8.5.
Oh yeah, if it's 8.5, I'm definitely gonna go over on that. I think that's probably very heavily bet over for Bears fans. But yeah, besides, I think you hit the major ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's end on this one. I just suddenly thought about it. It looks as though the stadium, I think the Bears are probably looking at Arlington Heights right now. I know Kevin Warren boasted about having a shovel in already, or maybe close to before the end of this year. With the death of Virginia McCaskey and the inheritance tax that is eventually due at some point for the Bears ownership. What do you think about the Bears ownership? The Lakers were recently sold to Mark Walter, who is the principal owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, for $10 billion. There have been talks about, bringing in a, maybe outside investors. I forgot, like the investment firms or private equity. I'm sorry, private equity was the word that I was thinking of. You're the numbers guy. You're working accounting, stuff like this. What kind of impact do you think that bringing in a private equity firm for a family-owned franchise like the Chicago Bears that definitely needs cash to get the stadium going? They're probably not going to get any money from the state or the government, and yet the Chicago Fire was somehow able to announce that they're building a brand new stadium. Obviously, the football stadium versus the soccer stadium obviously pales in numbers in terms of the size of the capacity, and obviously from a money as a perspective. But at least you're still Chicago Fire owner was able to fund the stadium with his own money, whereas the Bears can't do anything about it even at this point. What's the end goal here, do you think, with the Bears stadium situation?
I think maybe they might need to get some private equity involved because they're not the richest owners. The McCaskies, they are billionaires, but they don't have a lot of cash per se, and
they don't have any outside businesses.
They don't have any businesses like Stan Kroenke does or whatever. They don't have the money like that. So I think it is possible. Maybe they sell a tiny portion to get $1 billion to fundraise the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. It's kind of hard to say what's going to happen with the Bears stadium at this point because it's kept on going back and forth. At first they said they were kind of focusing on Chicago more, but now they're going back to Arlington Heights. I think eventually it is going to be Arlington Heights because they bought all that property, all that land. So I don't think they're just going to not do anything with that. So, I don't know when to expect the stadium though. It could still be a year until they break ground on it at this point. And if that's the case, I don't think a new stadium is going to be done by maybe the end of this decade. Maybe 2030, 2029 is when it could happen, or maybe even later. Who knows? But I mean, at this point, like the Bears still have plenty of seasons at Soldier Field left.
Yeah, I do think that it will be Arlington Heights, but I have my doubts that there will be anything that can be done about the financing of the stadium. So maybe the Bears will have to probably start to look outside for probably like an investment firm. Maybe somebody that kind of like the White Sox when they announced that Matt Ishba was going to be the outside investor who will pump in some money and then eventually gradually buy the team ownership from Jerry Reinsdorf. Maybe that's something that the Bears have to start, incorporating into, their stadium plans if they want to, expedite the process. But again, they're not in a hurry to leave just yet. They're not going to be kicked out of the Soldier Field anytime soon, at least in the next 2 to 3 years. But hopefully there will be something done in that timeline. Maybe, hopefully before the end of this year, that there could be some concrete plans, not just for the stadium, but also for the ownership gradual transfer. But who knows? If George. I know George said that he's still interested in owning, but we'll see. How his children does, and how he, how the rest of the family feels about maintaining the Chicago Bears moving forward. Visa Joe with the final question here: over or under signing a free agent before training camp? Visa Joe, I think they will maybe bring in somebody like a outside body, more of a depth piece, not a big one. I don't think a trade would happen per se either. So maybe just like a 1 or 2, maybe small minor signings just to bolster, I would say maybe a linebacker. That's still the position that's still a little bit thin in the depth department, in my opinion, or maybe a safety as well, because, outside of Byard and Brisker, there's not much, depth or experience in that side, in my opinion. So those are the types of signings that I see. Not a big one, but like I said, it's like more of a depth signing. What do you think, Rishab?
I totally agree. I think maybe like 3 or 4 like depth signings, maybe a little bit more, like that could be possible, especially after training camp cuts. Or he said before training camp. So
right.
I guess we only have like a month until training camp. So yeah, maybe like 1 or 2 like depth guys I think could be possible, just to continue to fill out the 90-man roster. Because I believe the Bears are not at 90 at this, or maybe they are. I'm not totally sure, but regardless, like sometimes some last minute signings do happen. So I think a couple could be added, but probably nothing too crazy.
Well, on that note, we'll end our live stream this afternoon. Rishab, I appreciate you doing this on this Sunday. I know you got other commitments that you have to attend, so thank you for doing this, going over a little bit of an hour. It's been a great experience to catch up with you. I know you were, traveling outside of the States. I know you went to vacation in France and Turkey. For those who follow him on X, he was actually tweeting about it and posting some cool photos in that, his social media there, as well as, business trips that recently. So I appreciate you doing this on this Sunday, Rishab. And let's do this again, hopefully, in a couple of weeks, maybe closer to the training camp. Do you plan on attending a training camp soon for yourself?
Hopefully, yeah. I need to get tickets first of all, because it's not guaranteed. if I get tickets, I'll definitely be there at least 1 or 2 of the days.
Oh, that would be awesome. And let's catch up if you were successful, and maybe you could share us from your vantage point. I'm sure you're going to be doing some videos, attending the experience of watching the training camp firsthand, and then give us your thoughts on your YouTube channel as well. Your YouTube channel, of course, is DaWindyCity Productions on YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, everybody, for 700 plus people coming mostly through Rishab's social timeline. I'm Stephen Negishi. Have a great Sunday, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you once again. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I'll be doing my regular live stream with Ken Fang at 7 Eastern, 6 Central tonight. We're going to be talking about both the NBA Finals, the NHL Stanley Cup, and the soccer and all the other things that are going on in the U.S. and other parts of the world. So be sure to join us later tonight, 7-6 Central. Till then, have a great afternoon and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Take care, everybody.